Are you ready to learn to get rid of stress in your life? To learn how to deal with the emotional turmoil that causes strokes, heart attacks, bad health, and even weight gain? Life-changing habits for work, family, and everyone you deal with start here with Andrew Wittman. It's time to get Warrior Tough on WCCP 105.5 The Roar. Here's Andrew Wittman and Dutch Coleman.
What's up? Time to get Warrior Tough. This is the most monumental hour in media anywhere, and I'm not kidding. We're leadership and mental toughness coaches Andrew Wittman and the Dutch Coleman. What is going on, Dutch Coleman? How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. As usual, looking forward to what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, you know, it's always a good time, man. And you know what? I want to just thank all the listeners for hanging out with us. It's just, I'm just so grateful to be able to be connected with such a great group of folks, even through broadcasting and on the air. It's an honor and a privilege, bro.
Absolutely. I get text messages and I get hit on Twitter all the time about the content, and it makes me feel good to know that number one, people are receiving it, and number two, in some cases, I hear people are applying it.
Wow.
So those are, and that's wonderful. Whenever you're doing anything and you think people are receiving it and applying it, and if you need help applying it, just let us know. We can get that too.
Yeah, and I love the Twitter feed. So if you want to get in on the conversation or get in touch with us, use the hashtag #GetWarriorTough. You can also find Dutch at the Dutch Coleman, and I am at WarriorToughPhD. That is one of my most favorite things on the planet, is the interaction that we have when people talk to us about what's going on in the show and when they want to get our it's just awesome. Also, you go to the website getwarriortough.com. That's www.getwarriortough.com. There's a dot in there, www.getwarriortough.com, and just find a handle and hook in. And you guys could download the Android or the Apple app too, so you could hear Dutch and I all day long, 24/7. Our stuff is up there rolling, and it's going out live on Thursdays and a replay of the latest show on Saturdays on the app. So.
And YouTube. You can get us on YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube videos are awesome, and that's really my favorite way to watch because I get to see you, Dutch, and the shenanigans that are going on here. And and so I get a lot of people that watch the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll never miss the content. It's good stuff. All right, buddy. So this week has just been a mental toughness and leadership. I'll say a leadership more probably, and the mental toughness to go along with it. But let's talk about the leadership meltdowns that have been happening in college football and really on the college scene. It's really not football. Football got drug into it, but I'll let you take the lead on this, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The Missouri situation is obviously what we're talking about. The president, Wolf over there, stepping down, stepping away, being fired, relieved of his duties, however you want to categorize it. It's been troubling to me, because the conversation that I hear most is revolving around race. And we know that obviously the central issue with the complaints by the students had everything to do with race. But the focus has shifted to a person losing their job, which is nothing to take joy in or pleasure or anything like that. But that's where we are now. Someone lost a job. So I feel like, based on what we do, mental toughness and leadership, we need to focus on that. This is a leader, one of our leaders in higher education, academia, being relieved of his duties, and why. And to make it clear that it wasn't because of a racial incident or two racial incidents or three racial incidents. It was because of his response to his constituency or his response to his customers, the response to the students involved. And I think we need to make that clear, that we can have this discussion without even bringing in race or the reason that anyone was complaining, because we can make this about cafeteria food. We can say kids came to them about cafeteria food. The cafeteria food is horrible. You need to do something about it. And then he ignores them. He doesn't even entertain their complaint. It builds and builds and builds till the kids get enough groundswell support to get that guy out of his job. So it's more about his response than anything else.
Right, or lack of response. He was just like, hey, you know what? Mind your business. I got this kind of thing. And that might have worked, I don't know, 50 years ago or in corporate or whatever. But, that's a no these days. You have to, like you said, take care of your constituents. And whether you're the CEO of a company, and listen, I'm the CEO of a company. two of them. So I have to be responsive to those people that are in my employ, because my product doesn't get put out, whether it's in the security business or it's, this consulting training business, my coaches, whatever. The product is all, the thing is people. People are the whole, and this cracks me up in corporations, Dutch, because we say that people are the greatest asset, but human resources, if you're in HR, put on your steel-toe boots, but this is the view of the man on the folks in the trenches, that HR is the internal affairs division. When they show up, someone's getting in trouble. So it's not, and I even had CEOs tell me that my biggest expense is salaries. It's people. That's our biggest expense, not their biggest investment.
Right.
It's their biggest expense. And so I agree with you 100% that as a leader, you got to respond, man. And he lost total control.
And I want to make it clear to anyone listening. I don't know if those kids were correct in their assessment of the situation at Missouri. I have no idea. I'm not there. Again, that doesn't matter, because what happens is, if someone comes to me with that, one of two things is going to happen. As a leader, I'm going to investigate, and I'm going to find out that they're right, or I'm going to investigate and I'm going to find out that they're wrong. So one of the ways I would do it is I would investigate with them. They're going to come along for the ride with me, so that when they discover what I discover at the same time I discover it, that's going to help me when I discover that it's not credible. And then they're not going to look at me and blame me, because they were sitting right there during the investigation and they saw that it was't credible. Now, if I come back, and that's one thing that leaders do, they walk away, they leave them behind, and they go do this independent, quiet, non-transparent investigation.
Right.
And they come back with these results. And then the people are upset, because they're like, well, where'd that come from? How do we know to trust that? Well, I'm taking you on the ride with me, and we're going to find out what's going on. Because especially if I feel like there's something that may not be jiving, I feel pretty good that we're going to find this out together. And I'm not going to be angry if I find out they were right, because leaders want to know the truth. They want to gather some facts, and then they want to come to a common truth.
Right. And to get that, like you said, gather the evidence, get the facts, and see where that leads and what's the conclusion that those facts point to. Exactly, Dutch. I'm 100% with you on that. And whether you agree or you disagree how the thing played out, my truth is, and I know it's your truth too, because we talked about this, but our truth is that as the leader, it all rests on them. They are the problem and they're the solution. If there's a problem, they're there to solve it. That's what that guy's getting paid for, to solve problems. Okay, and everybody in business, if you are in leadership or management, or you're the first line supervisor, you're getting paid to influence people and solve problems. That's why you're in the spot. And he wasn't doing either of those things.
And shame on the new leader. If the new leader comes in and they start handing people stuff, shame on the new leader, because that's not leadership either. The new leader needs to come in and very quickly begin to put a team together to investigate what's going on. Now, they've already concluded that some of the things were true, and there were some issues, because as we talked about before, the House Democrats and Republicans had already had some information. They were already behind him being removed because of his lack of response, because they had seen some things. You have faculty and staff who are already behind some things that they were aware of that were in fact true. But that doesn't mean that all the stuff they said was true. So I want to find out what's real, what's imagined, what's made up, what's not a part of the problem. And I want to kick that stuff out of the system. And I want to focus on what's real, because if they had 8 complaints, maybe only 4 of them were legitimate. So if I can focus on the 4 legitimate complaints, maybe the problem is not as big as we thought, and I can focus my resources on those 4 things and get it done. So I hope the new leader doesn't come in and just gives them carte blanche to do whatever, and then they will be ignoring another part of the population, or creating more problems by doing that. So we need true leadership here, and that's what's been lacking in this whole situation.
So it's like the pendulum swing or whatever. You don't want the pendulum to swing the other way, and then we're in the ditch on the other side.
Right. Now the good news is it really seems like they had some support. Now, a lot of the people who weren't supporting are the outsiders, but it seems like within the Missouri community, there were a lot of people that were in support of some of the changes and some of the things that were happening. So that's going to be good. It's a lot softer when it's more accepting, because you're not beating people over the head. But there's always going to be a certain percentage that that's going to resist the change anyway.
And now that you said that, you brought that up, this has been on my mind all week, okay? So all the people that are freaking out about the stuff the football team did and all this other stuff, let me tell you something. There was no violence. There was no rioting. Nobody was burning cars. There was no throwing bricks. There was none of that. So, you know what? Quit complaining. You can't have it. You know, you complain when it's one way, and then when they do it peacefully, and then you complain because of that. And I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? Do you understand where I'm coming from on this, Dutch? Like, get over it. They did it the way that they could do it, and they did it peacefully. Nobody got hurt. Whether you agree with it or you don't, they weren't burning stuff, and they weren't trashing the campus.
That's why I question the motivation of people sometimes when they're complaining, and they you know, they were saying stuff like kick them out of school, do this, do that, and I'm sitting there like, what? You know, and you know, we don't do that this way in America. And I'm like, America was built on protest.
The whole thing was built on rebellion.
More
than protest, dude. Rebellion.
The Boston Tea Party. I went on Twitter. I went back to the Boston Tea Party. I went back to and I made it personal because a lot of my followers are female. Getting women the right to vote. I mean, that took a lot of fight. I mean, that took a lot of protest. That took a lot of going against the grain. That took a lot of rallies. And then you have the different thing with getting the black vote and getting all the. I mean, that took rallying. That took fighting the system. The bus boycott from the 60s. I mean, this is historically based action.
Right. And you and I said this. We said this off the air. You and I had this conversation. I said it's a time-honored process in this country. And you know what? That's what the First Amendment's about. And that we would redress, go read the Constitution because it's about redress of grievances, that your grievances would be addressed and that you could go and you have free speech. And so, and now they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by saying this is a media free zone and get out of here. And then, then that professor kind of stepped into it. So listen, this ain't a perfect system, but it's the best one on planet Earth.
And just because these people were right about something doesn't mean they can't be wrong about something else, because that was completely wrong. The media free zone stuff,
right?
That's when they're letting the emotions take over, and they feeling real big about something. So now they feel like they can act any way they want. So leadership has to come into play there as well.
Right, and this is and we can help with that. That's why there's two things: is emotional intelligence and critical thinking as part of this whole mental toughness piece. So. And listen, it's an uphill struggle, man. I mean, we're emotional beings. When we go into fight or flight or freeze, and we said this in cognitive neuroscience, man, when you start operating out of that fear, that fight, flight, anxiety, worry, half your brain shuts off, and it's the creative problem-solving half. So when you get real emotional like that, and then the next thing that happens is the hormone dump. The endocrine system kicks in, and then you can't be rational for at least, it takes 20 minutes, the science says 20 minutes for that stuff to leave your bloodstream. And so it's like if you have ever been in like a near-miss accident and it's over logically, and that's when the hormones dump in and the adrenaline hit and then your heart starts pounding. It's after it's already over, and then you feel upset for the next 20 minutes or whatever. That's what happens here. You have 2 minutes to decide what your truth is going to be. That's how the thing works. 2 minutes to decide what your truth is going to be. If you decide to get emotional, let emotions run the boardroom, then the endocrine system will say, okay, and then it'll dump whatever hormones that go along with that emotion. And now it's 20 minutes before you could get that out of your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm. And emotions will arrive. It's just how you deal with them when they get there, because they're coming. And we've talked about before that balance. Who's running the boardroom?
Yep.
You got to have control. And one way to control it is to be aware that it's coming. And so you can be ready for it. But about one more point about the Constitution.
Yeah.
I always have this discussion with people, Andrew, and you served, and happy Veterans Day, and
thanks,
thank you for your service, and everyone out there listening. I'm sure we'll spend some time on that as well. But real quickly, we've had 26 amendments to the Constitution?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
And probably all 26 of them, or most of the 26, came from some sort of protest or redress or some sort of action by the people.
Yeah, and I know that prohibition turned that way, and then the protest to get rid of drinking, and then of course that got protested, and then they brought it back.
Right.
Right. So, hey man, we got to go to break. Would you protest if we go on break? Is that going to be a problem for you? Could I go on break?
Yes, that's bull crap.
Yeah. Nice with Dabo. All right, so listen, channeling Dabo. Okay, so we're going to come right back from break. We got plenty of other stuff to talk about. This is a great show, Dutch Coleman. I love knowing what you think.
Do you want to be warrior tough?
Do you want your employees to be Warrior Tough too? With abilities to handle difficult situations as a well-oiled machine? Andrew Wittman has been teaching leadership, discipline, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and mental toughness for 30 years. His seminars build strong working relationships, high-performance teams, effective communication in crisis, and conflict management skills. He'll change the way you look at yourself, your company, your job, your life. He is dynamic, engaging, and stimulating in his presentation, and he can help you build and develop the leadership skills and high-performance skills needed for your team. He'll give you the tools that will not only increase the positive product output in business, but in your personal life as well. To get complete information on how Andrew can help you, call 864-977-1772 or log on to GetWarriorTough.com.